last moment. It went from like 29 to almost 65
Yeah.
yesterday. So
Yeah, it'll jump up pretty quick.
yeah, so
It'll
I'll give it a
probably
minute.
do it once you start talking, and
Yep.
everyone's just a couple minutes. I am not on a beach. I am just using a background.
Okay.
I started the recording, so we can get started, Tom, and I'm sure people will pop in soon.
Okay. So everybody, most of you know who I am, but just in case there is somebody in this company that doesn't know who I am,
How could that be?
I know.
Mr.
My name-
Popularity.
What can I say? Or annoyance, whatever it may be. Who knows? So, anyways, my name's Tom Feely. Been with Net at Work now in my 15th year. Surprised Alex Solomon, just amazed at sometimes on that how long, but I've been here for about 15 years, and I do work at the New York office. So today I'm going to have a little PowerPoint, a little bit of razzle dazzle in it, and I'll introduce you to the only other living thing in my apartment, my dog, in a few minutes. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So what brings me joy in life? There's a lot of things, but one of the key things is family. So you'll see here, it's the land of the Jolly Green Giants here. There is no male in here under 6'1", and no female, including my mother. Well, my mother, she shrank a little bit, under 5'8". This picture is I think about 13 years old. My mother passed away about 8 years ago, but this was done on the beach in Jacksonville, Florida. But it is a tall group of people within this group here. Even the women who married into the family are tall. So that's why I am 6'4", and everybody else has been 6'1" and above on the male side. So it's a strange group. So right here is my brother Dan. Here, my brother Mike, his wife Jan, his 3 kids, Dan's wife Lori, and then his 3 kids right here, and that is my mom. She hated being on a chair because she thought they were trying to make her into her grand dame here, but I miss her every day, and but she is. I learned a lot from her, including I'm a little bit better than her on the filtering of what goes from my brain to my mouth. Hers was no filter. Mine has a little bit of a filter. Okay.
A
little bit. So this is my mom and dad on her wedding. This is like 1952. And it is, he is from Owensboro, Kentucky, and she's originally from New York, and they met in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay. Here's my father in World War II. It's somewhere in Southeast Asia, not 100% sure where. He was a major in the armed forces, and he was in charge of a large area of procurement officer. So he never saw action, but he organized the products being shipped to the different areas of the war effort in that area. This is my grandmother from my mom's side. We did not call her grandma. She did not like that. We had to call her by her first name. So her name was Kay, and that's what we called her. She felt that it made her look old. She was a grande dame, let me tell you. Her husband and her father, probably we believe, were part of the Tammany Hall Irish Mafia here in New York City. She is from New York City. Both families have been here since about the 1840s, 1850s, somewhere around there. And so this is in a picture in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then here's my father, my mom, and his parents. They're from Owensboro, Kentucky. More oil, could be not more oil and water here in reference to the families, and they did not get along. They called them a bunch of New Yorkers, and they called them a bunch of hicks. It was an interesting wedding. But other than the wedding, they probably never interacted until my father's passing away in 1966 was the last time they probably ever interacted with each other. So a little bit about, here's some pictures of me. I truly think this is the first picture of me showing me that I'm gay. I have a little phone in my hand and the whole polo shirt and everything. This is Christmas time in Florida. As you see, you've got the big monstrous TV in the background, and it did not have a remote control. That was the children. They were the ones that changed the channels and the volume. And if you'll notice here in the background, being my mother, how she was an interior designer, this was a Santa Claus and a snowman. But you'll notice it's a very thin Santa Claus with a very long top. just my mother's style. Here's with me on my horse, Joker. We had horses for a very long time. He was part Clydesdale, and he lived till he was about 17 years old. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old here. Then here's a picture of my mom, my older brother, Mike, Dan, who's the youngest, and I'm the middle child. And as you see, I'm doing fashion statement already with a polo shirt. My brothers are in t-shirts and army gear. So this was the house that we had on West Tropical Way. And about 7 or 8 years ago, Kodak was having this thing go to take a picture of, show a picture of what something was in your life in the past, and then do a picture now. So this was a picture taken, same house. As you see, it was slightly different, roof and so on. And instead of jalousie windows, you had the full windows and so on. But this was, I was in a visit down to Fort Lauderdale with my best friend at the time, who passed away a few years ago. And we went to where I used to live and had this picture taken so that you could see some of the comparisons. Then here's my mom. About 4 years before she passed away. This was at Rockefeller Center during Christmas, so that's why you have the angels in the background. And as you see, I'm 6'4", so even in her age, she was still quite tall. And she was, to me, one of the greatest people ever. And she taught me a lot of good things, and I also picked up some of her bad habits, but that's fine. And then here's my brothers. This is a much more recent one. This was last year at my niece's wedding. Again, that's Mike and Dan and me. And as you see, they're shorter than me, which is the main thing here. And so this was done in Jacksonville, Florida. Then along here is, people have heard about him, Kevin. So this is Kevin. Met him 13 years ago this past March. Dated for a bit. And then we had a Rachel and Ross break for a few years, and got back together about 4 years ago this July. And he truly is my rock, and I love him to death. And someday I'm the one who's pressuring for the marriage and moving in together, but he's being a little resistant. But I think he's breaking down slowly here.
You're just wearing him down, Tom.
I'm wearing him down. So here's a picture of Bree. We have multiple names for her, but Brianna is her full name, or Bree, or Bree. And that's Jeff and me with our picture. So this is our little family. And along here is some pictures that when we were in London this past September. That's Kevin's parents and me. This was done at some church in the background. And so that's his mom, or that's his dad. Technically, that's his stepmom, but she's been his mother since he was 1 or 2 years old. So he calls her his mom in actuality. And then here's a picture of us getting ready for a picture that someone was going to take of us at my niece's wedding in Jacksonville. So I find that a great little picture, because it's one of those things that just someone takes that you're not doing anything. It's just a natural picture. And I just love this picture. And then here's Bree. When I first got her, she was 8 weeks old here, and got her at North Shore. The best thing besides Kevin I've ever done in my life is get her. And then here's her now. When I got her, they said, now I'm 6'4", 200 pounds in this picture.
Wait, Tom, are you 6'4"?
I'm 6'4", 200 pounds. And that's her. She's a big dog. And that's a picture of her now. And love her to death. Bree, come here.
She's getting too old for you now, Tom, isn't she?
Yeah. No, she's still fine. So I'm going to show a picture of her now. So this is Brianna. Say hello. And she's my coworker. She helps me with keeping me company during the day. And she is somewhat tired of me taking her on so many walks a day to get outside.
Tom, did you just compare Kevin to the dog?
Kevin is my, Kevin and I have a discussion of what is the most important thing in my life. And I joked, I said, if there was a fire, I would get Bree and then come back for you. So,
that could be a reason why Nicole's in that deal.
Yeah, why you're not getting married.
And so
that's not great for that whole marriage thing.
I know. So this is Bree with her
no
best
wonder
bud.
he hasn't said yes, right, Anne?
Seriously.
He's being compared to a dog.
I know. So here's a picture of Bree with her best friend Tico, who's my best friend. You can see a little bit of my apartment in the background, and it's basically a mini version of Bree. They come over and they just play all the time, and they're best buds. And then here's Bree doing her favorite thing is sticking her head out of the car while we're driving around. If I say car ride, she is all ready to go and instantaneous. So, but that's her favorite thing to do. So some of you may know this or not. I was originally born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, lived in South Beach for a few years and came up to New York in 1989 and fell in love with the place immediately and moved up in July of 1990. So this year, it will be 30 years that I've been in New York City. And to me, this is my hometown. Fort Lauderdale has no pull on me or anything other than to visit, occasionally go down there and see people, relatives and stuff like that.
And your coworkers.
And coworkers.
Yeah.
So,
Not Ralph.
not Ralph. So here's some pictures of New York City. This is a great picture. This was last year at the 9/11 memorial during 9/11. I'm sorry, 2 years ago. A woman had just put this flower next to her husband, and I just thought it was a great picture. You can see the new Trade Center, World Trade Center in the background, and World Trade Center 7, and a little bit of the memorial. And if you ever come to New York, you got to go down here, both the memorial and the where the towers used to be standing. It's just absolutely just breathtaking and gorgeous. And it will take your heart away. And here's the sunset. I think it's one of the best sunsets ever for New York City. You can see the Trade Center background. We are driving along one of the roads in Brooklyn, and just happened to be able to take this picture. It was just breathtaking. And the seasons here. This is Kevin. That's Kevin in the background walking. But I love the change of seasons here. Through this process. And one of the great things is the museum. So you can go and see, here's the Met, a Pollock picture, who is one of my favorite artists, and just love his work. And it's nice to be able to see originals and stuff like that. And then this is what I get to see when I'm flying into LaGuardia every time. I usually fly in midday, near the sunset time, and it's just breathtaking every time I come in. So one thing that's great about New York City, if you ever come, is during Christmas. And this is Saks Fifth Avenue. They decorate their building up to the nines every year. And I'm gonna play a little video.
That is gorgeous.
And a reminder, Tom, you've promised to show me that in person during the holidays. I'm going to hold you to that now. Like, you've got me all excited.
And so it's really just great. Now, parking is always difficult during winter. That is my car.
Man.
So
Florida looks pretty good now.
There are drawbacks to living in New York. I actually couldn't find my car because I forgot where it was parked, and finally found it. So Ivana knows that what that feels like, and I've unburied her car when I used to borrow her car from time to time. And,
from time to time.
Yeah, from time to time. But Ivana knows that feeling of looking at your car like that. Okay.
Thank you, Tommy, for every time you digged it out for me while I was away at a client.
Not a problem. So a few years ago, I won a trip to, I won a travel voucher from Sage and did a cruise through the Mediterranean. It was a gay cruise. And we went to a whole bunch of different places. Rome is, I want to go back to Rome for 3 days. Now, a little interesting story how I found out that I won. I was gone to lunch, went to the bank. Alex Solomon calls me and he says, Tom, I got some news I need to talk to you about. It's really important. And he said, oh, wait, my doctor's calling me. He said, do not hang up. He says, you must stay on the phone. I'm like, what did I do wrong? How am I going to get fired? I'm even going to be fired in the middle of the restaurant, the bank, or whatever. So I didn't go and I stay on hold. I go to Chipotle, and he comes back on. He says, Tom, you still there? And I said, yes. He says, I need to let you know that there was additional conversation. You won the travel voucher from American Express because of the amount of Sage X3 deals I sold. Now, everyone knows my voice carries. I'm in line at Chipotle. He's telling me this. And I went, sorry for the verbiage. No fucking way. And everybody in the restaurant looks at me. And then I said again, are you fucking sure? And so I was able to go on this cruise. It was a lifetime thing, and I didn't have to pay for it, though I spent way too much money on new clothes and shopping while I was on the cruise, stuff like that. So this is some areas of Rome, some really just fantastic city. Then we ended, this is a picture of me on the Venice River, the Grand Canal. We disembarked in Barcelona. So here's some pictures of Barcelona, and the sights are wonderful. You know, you got to take lots of pictures of security guards also in Barcelona. He's giving me this look. I didn't care. You know, I was like,
Creepy, guys. You're creepy.
so, you know, what can you do? And then here's some pictures of that I took in London with Kevin and his parents. This is the London Tower Bridge, not London Bridge. This is, oh my God, the Tower of London at night. We were walking around and all of a sudden came across it around the corner, went ahead and took this picture. And then we went and visited the Queen, had tea. She was very nice. And that's on there. And this is the,
with the Queen.
I did. In my mind, I did. Okay. And this is the Globe Theater. Shakespeare. It's a wonderful place to visit. And that was pretty much it. Now, one thing I have learned with Kevin, and as you know, sometimes my humor doesn't go very well. So Kevin is not the most prompt person of getting on time. And so I texted him a picture when I got to a restaurant. He was late by about 10 or 15 minutes, and there were some other people joining us. And I sent it as a group. I said, we're all waiting here. And I took a picture of the restaurant, me in the background. And then he responded to the group. And this is when you learn that you need to be careful what you say, because you never know what they're going to do.
Wait, keep that up so I can get a picture.
I want that to come up.
I personally like the pink hair.
I got it, Sam, if you didn't, just in case.
Poor Tom.
So
Be on
this is,
Facebook
I've
later
learned
for
my
sure.
lesson. I've learned my lesson to be a little bit more conscientious about setting reminders of text messages when somebody is late. So, but that is my joy in life, and I'm very lucky in reference to everything I do, and I'm very fortunate with all the friends I've met, and both here and with a lot of my work people. And I appreciate always a lot of you. I sometimes may not, but I do appreciate everybody here. And that's me.
Thank you so much, Tom.
That's awesome, Tom. We appreciate
You're welcome.
you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tom.
Next
Thank
week.
you, Tom.